Alrighty, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Steelseries Southeast Asian Cup Season 3. This is Game 2 of a best of 3 between AMD Mineski and Titan Mineski being from the Philippines and Titan being from Malaysia. Thank you, of course, to Steelseries for sponsoring this tournament and Dota Talk for very kindly allowing me and my co-caster of Blaze to cast this tonight. Hello.
Hey, doing good from the previous match, and I'm looking forward to what Mineski has to bring to the table for this second one here. Of course, Titan played in a great game, very, very sound strategy. We'll see if Mineski can throw a curveball this time around. But yeah, I think I've seen them play a lot of different strategies. That one wasn't really the most effective, but let's see if they modify their draft a little bit and can kind of learn from the mistakes they made in game one.
Well, yeah, I think maybe we might see the ban out of the Elder Titan this game, or at least Mineski. No, we're going to see Titan banning it out. But yeah, I mean, Mineski, they played their normal drafting style last game, but they just didn't play it up to the normal standard that we usually see from them. They made a lot of mistakes in the early game and just didn't have the ability to snowball. So that could just be Mineski having a bad game, or it could be Titan just forcing out the mistakes from Mineski, since Titan are obviously a very strong and well-cohesive team. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. But yeah, we're looking at the ban outs. We can see Odie, Elder Titan, Lich, and one more being banned out at the moment. Maybe you're going to see a respect ban of that Ursa, but probably not because that would make any sense. But with the Elder Titan banned out, I think at the moment Mineski have got, I would say, a pretty good reach to take whatever they want. Since I would say the Elder Titan was one of the heroes that had the biggest effect last game. Just with that passive, the natural order, helping out the team fights quite a lot to go the way of Titan in the early game.
There's still quite a few good heroes in the pool. Of course, the Naga Siren was a pretty big factor last time around, so I might give that one a mention. Last time, Mineski did have first pick, and they actually used their first pick slot for the Earthshaker. Do you feel that was as valuable a pick as they put it forward in the draft?
For Mineski, oh god, actually, the captain of Mineski's DC'd. No wonder he's taking so long to draft. For Mineski, yes, usually Jay plays an amazing Earthshaker, but like I was saying, they just didn't seem to be, I guess, on the ball last game. He was missing a lot of blocks, and he was, just kind of throwing stuns out. And we could see some really nice Echo Slams coming out from him, but I mean, Mineski do frequently first pick that Earthshaker, and normally they make it work. So I don't know what's going on. Are we remaking?
Maybe technical issues on their end.
Yeah, they are from the Philippines, so a lot of internet issues. But we was going to be the ban out. So Titan, first pick now. What are they going to take, do you reckon? Maybe grab the Night Stalker or Luna, even though they were ignored last game. Or the Timbersaw.
Very solid pick up there. Of course, Ice will probably be piling that on the offlane, but still a very viable mid-hero as well. The bottom line is he does a heck of a lot of damage, has some great mobility and survivability, and actually the really frustrating aspect of his first ability, the Whirling Death, is that it will reduce their primary stat attribute by 15%, and against strength heroes that can do a heck of a lot of damage. So he is countered out by a lot of different things, but primarily disables. So I have seen like an Invoker do extremely well against Timbersaw because of how Cold Snap works, but nevertheless it's still a great pick to secure and force Mineski to draft against, which it looks like they're reconnecting back in, so we shouldn't have any issues.
Yeah, hopefully not. And they're going to go for the Crystal Maiden pickup. So, like we saw last game, I think it was Net was playing the Crystal Maiden last game, if I'm not incorrect. And he did a fantastic job of just roaming around the map and showing the power of Crystal Maiden. And unfortunately, he didn't go for that Midas build, which we have been seeing more and more prevalently. And I do enjoy it as a Crystal Maiden player. I like seeing her get some farm up. But, I mean, Mineski, maybe they're going to go for the 5-man Necronomicon strategy earlier in this tournament. They did pick up heroes such as a Crystal Maiden who could farm quite effectively. Pugna was another one they went for. And there's that Pugna. And they went 5-man Necronomicon and just was super, super lame. So maybe they're going to pull out the cheese strategy. It worked really, really well, though. It definitely won them the game. So could be seeing that this game.
Yeah. Now, one thing I was considering mentioning, but I wasn't sure if it was warranted, is the absence of the Midas meta in that last game. Not a single hero, even the Lifestealer, none of them picked up a Hand of Midas, and that kind of surprised me, but it just kind of showed the pacing of the game between the two teams. They realized that there was going to be a lot of activity early, and the only time Hand of Midas is good is when you expect it to not be pressured, when you expect it to be able to get away with 6 or 7 minutes at least, where you don't mind just having 30 attack speed from a almost 2,000 gold item. So obviously it's an investment. You might see it here because, like you said, you can build up towards some more powerful items very, very quickly. But if Titan just put out some pressure, then that might be not the strategy they need.
Yeah, and I mean, last game, like you said, it was a lot of aggression early game, but this game, oh God.
They're going to run out of bonus time, randoming some bans.
Yeah, we might have to remake this game. This isn't this isn't going, I think, the way that Mineski wanted it to. Um, but yeah, with the pickup of the Venomancer as a second pick, I find that very curious. Venomancer, of course, was buffed in the most recent patch. We have seen him flitting in and out of the metagame. He's been picked up a couple of times, banned a couple of times from what I've seen in the Asian scene. But as a second pick, when there's a lot of other heroes that are a lot more popular in the metagame at the moment, it is kind of curious, and I suspect maybe they're intending on running a quite aggressive trialing themselves. Um, I think it was who was it? It was someone in the WPC Ace League who ran an aggressive trialing with Venomancer, Luna, and one more, and they just won the game in about 10 minutes because they just got
Hmm.
so many kills in their off lane aggressive trialing. So maybe you're going to see Titan kind of emulating that, and they have banned out the Juggernaut and the Rasta. So Juggernaut, of course, is a very strong pushing carry, so I guess maybe they suspect that Mineski are going for a slightly push-oriented lineup, and same with Rasta or Shadow Shaman. He can go mid and get level 6, and with those wards, he can take towers down fairly effectively. So I think Titan just don't want to have to deal with any kind of pushing coming out from Mineski, and with the Venomancer, it's a good AoE and also good counter push from those wards.
Yeah. I think that's the main focus there is the kind of balance between push and counter push. The Pugna, the Nether Blast doing a lot of damage to towers, and if you give him a couple other options at his back to just push down towers very, very rapidly, you're going to be in jeopardy. So they ban out two very push-oriented heroes. The Plague Wards are great at halting a push. If you can just have maybe even 20 seconds to set up before it connects, then you're going to be in a pretty good position here. Now, I have seen Venomancer played in a couple different roles. Miracle's done farming Venomancer. Of course, he carries on just about anything. But on top of that, of course, you mentioned very powerful in a tri lane for supporting. So can set up a lot of kills, counter push a lot. Very, very effective in that regard. Even though he might not be able to interrupt some of the channels like Pugna's, it's still, overall, I think, a very, very solid pick. But in turn, Mineski finding an interesting selection of carry in the Drow Ranger. And I'm not exactly sure what to think about that other than assuming that the opposition won't be up close and personal, which may or may not be the case if Titan drafts correctly.
Yeah, Drow Ranger fourth pick.
One thing I want to mention real quick is they
Yep.
changed to her aura
Yeah.
in conjunction with the familiars. You can pretty much just make a two-man demolition crew out of those familiars just by hitting your E every once in a while. So that's definitely a synergy.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was going to say with the aura, she can push quite aggressively. Pugner, of course, has got very high base damage, and with the Drow Ranger aura, he'll be hitting like a truck as well. So, I mean, there is a little bit of synergy with that, but I mean, at the moment, Mineski have got four reasonably squishy heroes that, I mean, on the whole, I would say that they're kind of glass cannons. Pugner, if he can kind of stay away and can get the Decrepify and Blast off, he'll be able to kill pretty much anyone on Titan at the moment, but at the same time, that Timbersaw, if he gets too close to any of the heroes on Mineski, he's just going to be able to eat them up. He will kill them in one chakram and one willing death, basically. So, I wonder what Mineski's last pick is going to be. I feel like I feel like it has to be someone who has to frontline. Maybe something like a Tide to go into the off lane, or even a Lifesteal is still in the pool. That's a possibility, though. I think they need a little bit more AOE and lockdown. The Earthshaker would have fit in perfectly, but Titan have picked that up themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Mineski has already drafted up heroes that can fit in the supportive role in an acceptable fashion. Crystal Maiden and Visage are generally going to be only in support. Pugna can be, but is more often seen in a farming role or a core role. So I like that CM and Visage were picked up just to kind of snatch them out of the hands of Net. They also banned out the Rubik, which was played by X last time around. So they forced Titan to deviate to less favorable supports, perhaps. But Titan has shown in the past that they're very, very flexible in how they run their supports. And Venomancer, Earthshaker, as long as the Veno can land a Gale unassisted, they're going to be just perfectly fine to take a tri-lane or a dual lane to the next level. And on top of that, they have a core Windrunner, most likely going to be iced on the off lane. And then that'll allow them to counter push to their heart's content.
It could be a Caramancer. You can't ever forget that there's a Caramancer potential in that lineup. But yeah, probably going to be Windrunner farming, I would assume. Venomancer, Earthshaker, like you said, very strong roaming combo. And Mineski, like we're discussing, are just so squishy and susceptible to dying in the early game. So if we do have a roaming potential coming up from the Venomance and Earthshaker, if Mineski get out of position like we saw last game, in that off lane, Jules and Jay, sorry, getting a little bit out of position, and they had vision of Net, but Net just walked up and froze them on the Crystal Maiden. So if that happened this game, I mean, the game will fall very, very quickly in favor of Titan. But I feel like since this is a best of three and this is game two, if with a one lead to Titan, Mineski wouldn't pick that Drow Ranger up unless they had some kind of Imber plan
Hmm.
because they wouldn't want to throw it. And Drow Ranger is such a niche pick. She's not seen very often in competitive mode or competitive
Yeah.
matches, so they must have some kind of an Imber idea of how to win this.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it comes down to the push. I mean, that was generally the game plan with those three heroes that they picked after the Crystal Maiden. But the problem is Titan has just read them like a book. They've drafted the Timbersaw with his Chakram nuke. The Windrunner, who's going to be in the off lane, will have plenty of ranks in Power Shot when the push begins. Plague Wards and Earthshaker's abilities will easily give them enough turtle presence that they're forcing Mineski to change their strategy and just go for raw damage output. If you look at how much Visage's Familiars can do in conjunction with Drow and her high agility output, they needed to get some good disable, and Magnus is going to be the lockdown they're asking for. The question is if they'll get those team fights off. If they initiate probably with the Magnus, they have all the damage in the world to make that very, very good for them. But if those initiations falter, if they get an Orchid on the Windrunner or something that interrupts their chain of initiation, like an Earthshaker Fisher, then Mineski could be just completely torn apart.
Yeah, definitely. And I do like the Magnus pickup as a last pick, since, as I was saying, they need someone to front lane, they need some AoE and initiation and some lockdown, and that
Mm,
does fulfill that role. But ooh, now with that TA pickup, KYXY is a very scary Templar Assassin player. It kind of fits into both the mid role as well as that carry role, which he does like to play. So they haven't really got anything to answer for that. They've got a whole bunch of nuking damage, but no damage over time. So KYXY and the TA are probably going to have a lot of fun. And I wonder how these lanes are going to go. Might
mhm.
be Trilane Pugner, or it could be Trilane Drow. With Jules and Joven often just switching up who goes which lane in the what now.
Sure. I mean, there's definitely they could obviously in this battle most of the time you're going to start in one lane and then roam to another pretty early on. Crystal Maiden and Visage are heroes that can absolutely do that with just one smoke of deceit. But to start things off, they have to assume that Ice is going to be going on the top lane for the Windrunner, so they can kind of feel comfortable about Drow 1v1ing that, getting some solo experience will give her her marksmanship rank 1 very early, and that'll kind of work towards their strategy. But it just comes down to, oh, it looks like we might have a quick remake or just a quick pause their bearings for PCs. We'll see. But yeah, it does give them the opening where they can try to rotate on the TA. And yeah, they're back in. Cool.
Yeah, and if we go through the players quickly before they all can reconnect and start running around to their lanes. On the side of Titan, we've got Extinct on the Venomancer. Ice is going to be playing that Timbersaw Net on the Earthshaker. KYXY on that Templar Assassin, most likely heading to the mid lane, and Ohio on the Windrunner.
Interesting. So you think that's going to be a carry Windrunner? They're just farm prioritizing her and trying to do as much as possible with that?
I would assume so. I mean, Ohio typically plays the tri-lane farmer. I should be pretty much okay in the offlane. They've only got one real lockdown coming out from Oa and the Crystal Maiden, so shouldn't really have any problems with just using the Timber Chain to escape. Plus,
Interesting.
if Jules does go to the easy lane and is laning against Ice, Timbersword destroys, like absolutely destroys a Drow Ranger. As soon as he hits level 4 or 5, even 6, there's nothing the Drow Ranger can do. Because all of the
Absolutely.
attack harassment in the world is going to do nothing to him. But yeah, you can go through Mineski if you want.
Yeah, starting things off from left to right, we got Jules picking up the Drow Ranger. Joss is going to be running on the Crystal Maiden. Jay is playing the Visage supportively. Then we do have, presumably on the mid, Jesse Vash, Magnus. Actually could go the offlane and probably will in this circumstance. That will leave Jay Hoven on the mid Pugna. And he's going to go for a pretty quick bottle, being pulled exactly one tango from his allies there. So it's still some PC issues. Hopefully that will be resolved. But yeah, I completely agree with your assessment. If they do leave the Drow Ranger to go head to head with the Timbersaw. Now, there are circumstances where if the Drow does get a little bit of extra momentum, if she gets her treads early or something like those lines, a good silence and Frost, of course, Frost arrows just laying into the target, I really do think that there's the potential to kill the Timber, but that's only if there's a misplay. And Ice isn't one of those players to throw an advantage away unless he sees much more high potential return for his actions. Yeah, we'll see how it plays itself out, of course, but for right now, they have a lot of potential for their tri lane, and from there, of course, I think Ohio can do a lot on this Windrunner. We've already seen him play some more utility-oriented carries, and seeing him play the Windrunner here, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it should be quite exciting, and I'm expecting a lot of legit shackles coming out. And if Titan are running an aggressive trialing, which they very well might be, Windrunner is typically the kind of hero you pick up if you do want to run an aggressive trialing as a trialing farmer. And with that Venomancer and Earthshaker, that might be what they have in mind. So they are all running to the top lane at the moment. Um, or maybe they just want to secure the jungle, make sure they've got, some sentries or wards to block the pool camp, so we can't get some extra farm on the Visage. But it's kind of hard to tell at the moment. I mean, the plus side from Titan running in an aggressive trialing is they could very easily get pickoffs on the Drow Ranger. If she came too far forward, got Earthshaker blocked, she would be dead. There's no way for her to escape that kind of damage in the early game. But at the same time, with the Crystal Maiden and the Visage, if Visage can turn around and get some Newcast and Drow Ranger, get a couple of hits, they could, turn this trialing around. And Drow Ranger getting farm is a lot more important than Windrunner getting farm. So if, Titan do make a mistake and Mineski turn around and win this tri-lane, it would be a lot more detrimental for Titan. Actually, Jules maybe going to get out of position at this point.
Well, Fisher to start. Not really going to single out the Drow Ranger per se, but just a little bit of back and forth here. Interesting, the Timbersaw's still here. It's almost like they want to force the first blood, 5 versus 3, but now that the opposition is hiding under the tower, they see that with their recently placed Observer Ward, they're probably just going to rotate to their lanes here and head for their matchups. And we do see the ones they are leaving behind seems to be the Venomancer, and possibly along with Ohio and Ned, as we were talking about.
Yeah, so it looks like an aggressive trialing will be coming out from Titan, and this is going to be, I would say, risky. Because like I said, if they do lose this trialing for Titan, it's going to be very hard to kind of catch up. Because Jules is going to be just free farming, and on the sideline, Joven is going to be pushing towers down, and if they can get enough farm onto Jules that he can solo, the supports can rotate down and help take Ice out and give a really good advantage to Jesse Vash. So this is going to be, I would say, the most exciting lane, the top lane right now. Just seeing what happens. I can't really imagine too many kills coming off in the mid or the bot lane unless there's a big mistake made.
For sure. Now, one thing that's already started off, look at this creep wave positioning. The creep equilibrium has balanced out very favorably towards the Radiant. Of course, it's very difficult to block for the safe lane now with the increased movement speed when they do spawn to try to even things out with the changes in 6.79. So a hero with only 280 MS isn't going to be able to manage with that too much. Meanwhile, Venomancer had no trouble at all. And the positioning just completely favors Titan because now they can maybe flank to gank with Net and get a good Fisher block off, or they can just put them further away from their tower where Venomous Gale becomes a very fatal spell to connect with.
Yeah, and you can see at the moment, everyone just fighting to take the wards down. Both sentries are going to fall at the same time, in fact, and that does leave the ward up that Mineski just planted to get a bit more vision in the lane, but now it's going to be dewarded straight away. So both teams really want vision of the actual lane, because this lane is going to be crucial. Whoever wins this lane is going to have the most advantage in the mid game. And yeah, I mean, CS-wise at the moment, Windrunner doing quite well, 4-0. Jules 2-2, so he's getting a couple of denies. And since he is in a tri-lane, he's not going to get enough experience here level 6 for a fair amount of time, especially, unless we see some kills going off. So that's going to be a bit of a downside, as Drow Ranger has a pretty terrible attack animation until she hits level 6. It's very, very slow, and her damage is decent, but it can be quite hard to last hit with her. So that's going to be something they have to watch out for, is making sure that Jules can get the farm, because Windrunner's attack animation is just, it's gorgeous. And she has decent base damage too.
Yeah, absolutely. So already a nice little early advantage, and the pull so far hasn't really been working out for Jay. And it's not really something that you can assume that you're going to get uncontested. So as much as you want the independent experience, it's so easy for just a Venomancer or an Earthshaker to rotate over and not only deny that farm, but possibly get the first blood. Meanwhile, the matchup on mid lane, we do see KYXY was able to obtain the double damage rune, and that just gives him the sustainability he needs to hold against Pugna for several more volleys of the Nether Blast. And then that forces Jay Hoven to go for the Bottle Crow, gets his boots, and sends the bottle back home. Going to be upgraded as soon as the 3-minute mark hits.
Yeah, I think the only thing that Joven can really do in this mid lane is just wait until KYXY leaves and then do some damage on the tower. We can see already it's down about 100 health, which isn't much, but for 2 minutes into the game, it does show what Joven's kind of strategy would be in this mid lane. He can't kill KYXY. It's very, very hard to kill him unless KYXY makes a mistake and runs out of mana or uses up all the refraction charges tanking the creep wave or something like that. But, I mean, on the whole, Joven is a nuking-based hero. and he can't take down that KYXY on the TA. So he's just going to be trying to push the tower down whenever TA does go to rune control or goes for some ganks.
Fair assessment there. I mean, of course, it does change when there's things like the Visage and the Crystal Maiden rotating, but I don't see that happening in the next 3 or 4 minutes because of the amount of pressure that is being put on them from Titan on the top. I mean, yes, there are only level 2 and level 3 heroes because they're splitting the experience 3 ways as well, but it still means that Drow, if she wants to even see a creep, you always have to have at least one of the 2 supports nearby. And that actually now a dive. KYXY, not necessarily going all the way under tower, he's just going pretty
Actually,
deep
bot
for
lane
every
Jesse.
single CS he can. It's going to be bot lane, though, where Jesse Vash is taking a lot of damage. The salve will bring him back up to snuff, though, and actually ice pop him one of his as well. But without any mana, it's actually going to be losing a little bit of momentum on this lane. And, of course, the back and forth up top continues.
Yeah, that was really, really close for Jesse Vash. He was on maybe 10 health before he got that pot up, so just enough, not enough attack speed on Ice. But I mean, Ice is really pulling ahead in this lane. In terms of CS, it's fairly even, 18-6 compared to 14-3. But Ice is just doing so much more harassment, and as soon as he gets those mana boots up, he's going to be able to dive and, well, really just force Jesse Vash out of lane. Jesse Vash is going to be at the point where he just has to stand back and get one creep every wave, just using the shockwave.
Absolutely. I mean, the matchup there is very, very skewed in the first place in favor of the Timbersaw. The way the Whirling Death works, dealing so much more effective damage because of the 15% stat steal. That's just going to make it so that Magnus can't really get close on a low HP threshold. On top of that, of course, you only have to put 1 point in reactive armor when you're 1v1, and just puts him in a great position where he is very happily moving towards his level 6. And Magnus, although he's doing okay on experience, is nowhere near the level of farm in CS department. Meanwhile, Joven on the mid lane can't get that bottle soon enough, as TA has harassed him a couple times over and has that regen rune to pop in just a moment.
Yeah, QXY really dominated this lane. He is level 6 now, so Trap's going down everywhere. Of course, if he had a sentry up, Joven could turn around and just use that life drain, but at the moment, KYXY just going to pop the meld as soon as he does try and heal himself up, so it's just a waiting game. And actually, KYXY doing a bit of initiation in, but really nice Decrepify coming out from Joven is going to force him back.
Yeah, that's going to be one of their saving graces for sure, is that Decrepify, reducing that physical damage output. It's not going to stop KYXY from trying to go in pretty deep and getting a nice meld strike off of mid. Now, Pugna can't run anywhere, trying to do the steal of life, and he's actually doing a lot of damage to KYXY, but he's able to outrange it, and now bottling up, try to go back in. Jhoven has a lot of HP, but now no mana. And again, that bottle is still in the courier.
Yeah, I think he's going to go for mana boots this game, because I really feel like he does need it. He is actually going to find that invisibility rune bot lane, so he might come down bot and try and get a kill on Ice 9 if they can. There is a reverse polarity up, so as soon as that bottle arrives to Pugna, I think we are going to see an attempt, at least somewhere maybe. It is really a prime time to go for a kill.
Yeah, it's difficult to connect, but with only 1 point in Timber Chain, it's definitely possible to get the kill on Ice. It's just about the timing and the positioning, and we'll see how that plays out. Right now, Jules, a little bit in an aggressive position, buying his treads. If there is a Shackle from Ohio, he is pretty much in no man's land. But fortunately, of course, Crystal Maiden and Visage are great defensive supports that can respond to that situation pretty quickly.
And it looks like Joven's going to notice that KYXY has abandoned the lane, so he's going to do a little bit of pushing, trying to get some more pressure onto the tower. He's got a TP scroll, so if anyone does get dived, he does have the ability to go and give a bit of a hand. And KYXY now just back in mid lane with some wards up, so he's going to be planting those around the map as this last ward up on the map at the moment is about to die.
So right now the rotation of Crystal Maiden possibly covering runes, possibly trying to actually get some damage on Templar Assassin. Still, without any detection, it's going to be very, very difficult to succeed in a kill. That's where Jay's Sentry Ward comes in. He's going to try to put it out in a good position, get a Frostbite on them, and they actually might be able to get a kill out of this, but every second they aren't top, actually we do see it miss out on First Blood down bottom. Reverse Polarity attempted onto Ice, but it's not enough to bring him down. He is able to turn it around the other direction. But as I was saying, moving on mid lane, going for this Frostbite. They have the Sentry Ward to place. And now KOXY in a terrible position, getting drained and being finished off by the Pugna. TP rotation from Earthshaker, too little too late. Although he'll be able to claim the Sentry Ward that was placed within the tower's true sight, he himself is not going to be able to change the fate of KOXY.
That was a really People are gonna hate me for saying this, but that was a cute misplay by KYXY. There wasn't even a misplay. He just wanted to get in position so that when Pugna came back to the lane, he could get a meld strike off. And unfortunately, there was just three heroes there waiting for him, so he went down. And it wasn't the first blood, but it was a nice kill. Ice getting that first blood though will pull him forward quite a lot. He's got the mana beats up and 1k gold in the bank compared to well, actually top lane.
Oh yeah, they are flanking hard. They're going to be able to go right on top of Ohio. Pugna goes for the Decrepify and the Nether Blast, incinerates him. Crystal Maiden falls, and now the Venomancer will be traded. So well, they do get a kill out of it. Titan does get something, but tons of damage. Now down bottom, the Skewer will successfully get Jesse Vash back safe and sound towards his tower, and it looks like Ice is not going to go for that last Chakram. But yeah, still, they get the kill on Ohio. That's kind of what they've really needed because this hero is so survivable. They need to get the kills while they can before he gets a Force Staff and other things that will allow him to avoid those situations pretty easily. But yeah, in this situation here, one thing that really you have to consider is the ward placement. Now it looks like KYXY is placing the wards that Net purchased for him here towards the top rune, but the back and forth that we saw at minute 1 for observers and sentries, it forced the supports to commit a lot of resources that the later they couldn't move over, rotate over, and place wards on the rune spawns, place wards in the areas that Crystal Maiden and Visage were able to rotate in to get that gank off. So I think that really plays into it. Is not only, you were saying KOXY is kind of playing really cheeky, trying to get the Pugna kill, but it's really about that map awareness and the fact that he had absolutely no idea where the supports were. And that's part on him, part on the supports for the warding.
Yeah, I mean, losing the wards in the first stage of the game, if they are de-warded, it is a huge impact on how the game can go because you only get that one set of ward for the first 6.5 minutes or so. And actually on bot lane, ooh, Jesse Vash being initiated on.
Yeah, but in the meantime, this is kind of a bait. They already have the smoke gank up and running. Net running very, very slow as a grab. Look at that damage from the Nether Blast. The drain going. Net will survive with 30 HP. Can they get the Nova off on him? Yes, it will finish him off. And now Timbersaw in a really bad spot. Was able to cut off the Magnus, who's buying back into the fight as we speak. But Ice just gonna head for the hills while KOXY runs in with that haster. And huge damage coming out, but this defensive Decrepify keeps CM up for the moment. And it looks like for the remainder of this skirmish here down on the bot lane. Meanwhile on top, Ohio having to TP away as he gets caught out by the Frost Arrows, even if they're only rank 2.
They do huge damage, and with the Precision Aura at max now, she is giving everyone plus 33 damage, which is nothing to scoff at. And, I mean, honestly, I think items coming up now for Mineski. I mean, gold-wise, it's going in favor of Titan, experience going in favor of Titan as well, but Joven 2-0 with that mech almost picked up. He just needs another 500 gold, and that's going to be a huge item choice. And the thing about the heroes that are doing really well on Mineski is that it's the Drow Ranger and it's the Pugna, and they're the two heroes that I feel are going to have a really big effect on the early game. Of course, Magnus, they really want to get a Blink Dagger up on him, but he's going to be able to rotate pretty soon. Actually, in mid lane, KYXY getting harassed a little bit, but he's going to be alright.
Even more so up on top, the Whirling Death will connect along with the Chakra Magic. There's going to be the Timber Chain, one last ultimate to be thrown, and Ice will claim the kill on the Drow Ranger. A very important kill at this stage. Looking at the current CS value of Drow Rangers, he's only gotten 58, so taking away that little bit of gold that she's been able to acquire, really, really good for her. Now a lot of damage coming on the Pugna. He's on the front lines. He's doing some work with the Nether Ward. But actually, yeah, turning around, going to drain down Ice. He gets the kill on mid lane. KOXY diving deep, has Refraction coming off cooldown, and despite the attempts to juke, Jay will drop down to the last strike of the Templar Assassin.
So a lot of kills being exchanged across the map. Taking down Ice is always going to be lovely since he looks like he is going for that Bloodstone, and the longer you can delay that, the better it is going to be for Mineski. Pugna getting even more kills is fantastic. He's got the mech up now, so I think he's going to be maybe grouping up a little bit with the Magnus, with the Crystal Maiden, and with that Visage and creating...
bottom lane. They actually do get the RP after the skewer onto KYXY, but with the Refraction still active, they have to get a big rotation. Visage has the Grave Chill, but Magnus is just too afraid with that HP value to actually follow up on this.
But I mean, Magnus not dying is fantastic, and he's getting closer to that Blink Dagger. I mean, he's still only on 600 gold, but he should be able to farm it up fairly quickly since, like I was saying before, they kept on fighting, guys. Stop fighting. They're going to start pushing towers down quite aggressively. I think they're going to be four-manning, creating space for Drow in the jungle so she can farm up and stack this Ancient Cap if she needs to, and basically get the towers down and get the gold advantage back into their favor.
Yeah, they do have a lot going for them. The mechanism now for Joven will allow them to push together as 4 or 5. very, very consistently. And all they have to do is wait for that RP to come off cooldown. Only 70 seconds, not taking too long. They're already making their motions there. But on top lane, there's Jules unfortunately getting caught out once more. And the jungle's not your friend when you're up against a Timbersaw. He hates those trees. He'll burn them down quickly. And looks like it's going to be Ohio to claim the last hit on that. Meanwhile, down bottom, a huge dive coming across. Looks like actually they weren't getting much out of that soul assumption. Expected more upfront damage to come from his allies. And now KOXI has his refraction up. A big shackle coming on to Joven. Pops off the mechanism, goes for another blast, but now getting right-click down. There's no way he can actually heal through all this damage. Turns around on net a little bit. He does take a pretty big hit, but even bigger coming from KOXY. Now a double kill for him. Crystal Maiden heading for the hills. She does get snagged by that snare a little bit, but it is at minimum duration, so not as potent as it could be. Still going to keep on in pursuit. Could possibly dive the tier 1, but I really just don't think he has the movement speed without phase boots to follow through, even with those drums of endurance.
Yeah, he has gone for a bit more of a, I guess, a DPS style build. As is KYXY style, typically on the TA, normally he'll pick up the Yasha next and then go in for something like a crit just to get that maximum damage. And no, it looks like he's going for a BKB this game, so that's also understandable. A lot of magical damage coming out from Mineski. And it will give him a lot more survivability. Joven now.
Trying to go on Pugno a little bit on the mid lane. They are pretty much just sending in warning signs more so than anything else. They're not actually going to connect with any of their abilities, but the fact of the matter is Pugno knows he needs his support from his allies. So right now they're grouping up, they're rotating through, and now that the RP is off cooldown, they are confident going 4-man. But this is where the Venomancer pick comes in. He's level 8, he has maxed rank Plague Wards, and he's already got 4 of them up, burning down the creep wave in moments, but now the Visage Familiars have found him, and with that damage from the Drow Aura, he dies to the Familiars alone. Wow, what synergy.
That is absolutely brutal. I was looking at the damage there, and it's plus 60 or so on the, with no hits left, if you know what I mean, when they only got the 10 damage or whatever. That is so, so mean. But I don't know if that little cheese strategy is going to be enough to win the game, quite honestly.
3 towers dropping, actually. Push pressure from KOXY with the DD in mid. They've got the top tower as well. But of course, they did trade for that tier 1 on bottom still. Gold as a whole moving towards in favor of Titan. And more items means less concern for those kind of cheese strategies, as you were saying.
Yeah, and I think the biggest graph of importance at the moment is the experience, because you can kind of see it was hovering around about 1,000, but within the past couple of minutes, it has just jumped up in favor of Titan even more. And I think the pickoffs on the Drow Ranger are really having a big effect because they need her to farm up, so they're putting a lot of resources into giving her solo experience. But the higher levels she gets, the more likely, or the more she gives when she dies, I suppose would be a way to put it. And now, ooh, Joven's so close to getting shackled in mid lane, but he's going to be able to walk away just a little bit slow. And I think they're going to have to start putting a lot more resources into Jesse Vash, because Joven's got off the Blink Dagger, Joven's got off the mech, but they really need that Blink Dagger on Jesse Vash so he can initiate the fights. That's going to be the absolute crucial item.
Yep. Now we do see the smoke flanking in, trying to get a pick off. Josh is going to melt if he stays on the front line here. They already got the Fisher on top of him. Decrepify is just barely going to come out in time with that mechanism as well. Staying alive, and now huge damage from 2 ultimates at once. An RP to connect on both of them, skewering them right into the thick of things. And there's an Echo Slam actually aided them, but they didn't actually lose any heroes as a result of that. So as almost initiating for his allies, it doesn't mean much in the end. Though it looks like the Templar Assassin will slip through, and a cleanup crew is from Timbersaw. Coming from the eastern flank, he was able to bring down Visage at the very least, and that makes it 1 for 2.
Yeah, so a good little exchange there. I would say going in favor of Titan. If they could have taken, sorry, not Titan, Mineski, if they couldn't take it out, the KYXY, that would have been a fantastic exchange for Mineski. But 2 for 1, nothing to complain about that. And taking down Ohio yet again, who has got the mech up, but still no 4 stuff. So his attack is going to be, it's okay, but he's not going to be able to really dish out the damage. And it looks like at this point they're going to be relying on KYXY to be the main damage dealer. And it's also worth noting, Extinct has picked up a Midas. He did get that before that last team fight. So is he going for a little bit more maybe of an AoE semi-carry role, picking up something like an Arcanum Scepter next, and just going for that middle of team fight, doing a lot of AoE damage?
Yep, that is definitely a possibility. Also could just go for the Veil. I mean, his allies already do quite a bit of magical damage. The Earthshaker, of course, the Echo was quite substantial, but wasn't enough to take anybody over the threshold, so it only ended providing 1 kill to the Timbersaw. But nevertheless, it's when you can get those kinds of initiations, when he gets the Blink Dagger, that Veil will be more and more prevalent. So I think that's something to consider, along with that Aghanim Scepter, which just makes the Poison Nova hurt so much to the point that it almost seems like Pugna's not even healing, he's just drawing even. But anyways, while we're talking about that, the Medallion Visage aids the Drow to bring down the Roshan very, very swiftly, and that's an Aegis Immortal in her hands. A much-needed pickup at that.
And they are farming the stack now for Jules, so she's going for a BKB next. She picked up the Archer for the extra damage, and Necronomicon going to be the pickup for Joven, so no 4-star for him. He wants to go maximum pushing, and I think Mineski's aim is to get the BKB picked up on to the Drow Ranger Jules with that Aegis, and try and get down all the outer towers by maybe 25 minutes and then go in for the racks. It's normally how they play. They try and get as much of an advantage, all the towers down by around about the 20-minute mark, which is probably not going to happen in this game, but I mean, with the Drow carry, they've got nice late game potential. Drow is very, very scary in the late game. But it looks like
now possible engagement on mid, laying the groundwork. They already have the Nether Ward in the trees. They're putting pressure on the mid tier 1. 2 TPs are coming in. They pop fortification. They really want to hold this, but there's damage is done. They've gotten it. And now, actually, Ice dropping down Jay very, very quickly. They go for a solo Echo Slam just to make sure they can burn down the Visage. Meanwhile, towards where the tier 1 once stood, KOXY pops off that BKB, but it's taking a ton of damage and almost gets RP'd, but jukes to the side, and it's actually S-canceled by Jesse Vash. Now the Shackle will barely connect onto a tree. A lot of damage from KYXY. Freezing Field to try to dissipate that damage output. Now the RP comes through. Solo on KYXY. They get that kill they've been looking for all game long, but Jules taking too much from the Chakram. Pops the Aegis the Immortal. Meanwhile, Jehoven almost getting a kill on Ice with the Drain, but the Force Staff lends his hand to safety, and now it's X. Just trying to get his Midas off. He gets it, but of course he did fall in the end.
Well, that was another nice fight, I would say, going the way of Mineski. They did lose the Aegis up on Jules, but that was all they lost for it. They managed to get a kill on KYXY, which is huge at the moment. KYXY just got that BKB up and used the first charge of that, but didn't find any kills from it, so good exchange and a good little fight for Mineski, and that's what they need to keep doing, is just winning the exchanges, winning these little scuffles, and take the advantage into their way. And Bloodstone has been picked up on Ice now, so he's got 10 charges, which will be very, very helpful.
Very timely pick up for that. A lot of utility in that item, and the more charges, the better. So, very, very great time to have that and just benefit from that team fight there. But still, they need a little bit more. Obviously, they are dropping down to the Magnus. They're dropping down to either the magical or physical damage coming in from the Drow. So I think they need to really put more emphasis on focusing down Drow Ranger. They don't want to cluster up, because we've seen what happens when you try to cluster up against Magnus. But nevertheless, if they could just get one Shackle on Drow, either before the BKB, actually, she just finished it, so that might not be as effective as an alternative. But just get Timbersaw on top of her, reduce some of that agility, and you might have a pretty good chance at dealing with her very, very quickly. Either way, right now, Mineski has been taking fight after fight. It's only pickoffs that have been working for Titan, and they have to change a lot for this to work out for them. Now, Shackle will fly. Looks like Ohio will be able to just win run away, no problem.
Look at that damage on Pugna. That's 170 attack damage. It is just insane. No, 176 now with that Necronomicon too. I mean, he hits like a truck, and there is a lot of damage coming out from Mineski. I better watch out. He does get silenced, nuked down, but Ned is there to help him out. And our bot lane KYXY is actually doing some aggressive pushing, and probably will find the kill at the tier 1 tower.
Yep, well, let's see if he can respond to the situation that's going on up top in time. Right now, there's already smokes up. Magnus wants to get this Blink RP off on multiple heroes. Right now, the J is the focus. Are they going to cluster up a little bit too much on him? Is he actually going to be able to walk? No. The Timber Chain will connect. Oh, where's that RP? That's what we're looking for. The Skewer comes out. Blink just coming off cooldown. No, he gets fissured. And he won't be able to find the initiation he's looking for. Instead, they took a tower, but they traded it 1-for-1, and they lose the Visage. They were really, really well set up for that gank, but either they knew about the smoke or they were just conscious enough of the potential Magnus initiation to not have to deal with it. But since they still have their cooldowns up and available, they drop the ward, they start pounding into this tier 2. Actually, now that we're doing a lot of damage, Earthshaker can't initiate now. He'll sacrifice himself with an Echo Slam, so that's just not a good option for him here. So we do see the tier 2 dropping readily, and it will go to Pugna here. Now trying to get something for their trouble. They do have everything. Here's that RP, though, and the Drain already up and active. Great silence as well from the Drow Ranger. There's nothing they can do about that situation. Timbersaw having to buy back to get back into this. Looks like it's going to be a quick skewer away for a TP. Josh going to be caught out with that shackle shot, and that is going to be a 2-for-1 trade, but they got 2 towers out of it.
Yeah, that was a really nice pickup on the tower, and unfortunately losing Joven, that's not what they want to do, but he did kind of fulfill his role on the whole. He got the blast off, got the tower, and also popped down that Necronomicon in the previous fight to just do a little bit of damage. But now Titan are going to be pushing the advantage. They might not be able to get this tier 2 tower on the top lane, but they should be able to do it, at least a little bit of a push, and I think they're probably going to be not wanting to take any really aggressive fights until that next Roshan. Just because if they lose a fight now, it's just going to kind of cement Mineski's lead and let Mineski keep snowballing forward. But at the same time, they want to make sure that they don't give another free Roshan to that Drow Ranger, because if she gets that Aegis up again with that BKB, she's going to be unstoppable. It's very, very hard to take down a Drow Ranger if she is getting quite fat, which this little Julesy pie is.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I do want to mention about the way the skirmish happened up top, that actually Ice was able to use his Bloodstone to activate the Suicide, denying the potential kill from Mineski, and also immediately activating that healing effect to his allies. So that was pretty nice, but the fact that he, in turn, bought back immediately after the fact, it kind of evens it out, in my opinion, that, yes, he did Suicide, they didn't get anything, but he lost quite a bit. Anyways, now they're pressuring pretty hardcore in mid. Again, as soon as RP is up, they're ready to rumble. And that's up in just 8 seconds here now. Necro 3 on Joven, already pushing in hard. And scouts out everybody with this Nether Ward. So now they have a pretty good understanding of the opposition's position, and that's going to allow Jesse Vash to get an amazing RP off in just a moment, but he can't get it. No blink with the Plague Ward actually connecting on him. There's one little right click from a Plague Ward, and the initiation falls apart. Now Ice pursuing on the front lines, doing quite a bit of damage. It's Jules they want. It's Jules they're going to get. Shackle and many, many nukes right on top of her. A nice little trap. A Gale will connect on Jay, and that will be at least 2 kills in this fray. And I don't think that Mineski can do anything but retreat from here. Oh, they commit the Echo just to make sure that this works out for them, but an amazing Echo from Ohio on the front lines makes it so that Joven will be forfeit as well. Jesse Fast jumps in with an RP, but it's only to try to get everybody out. A buyback from Pugna and Visage as KYXY pursues Josh. No running from him. He's going to bring her down with a quick Meld Strike. Now, Jay dodges the Gale, but a couple are hit by it, as well as the Fisher. The Shackle won't connect, but it's enough damage to make that a non-factor. Jay Hoven buys a few precious moments with that self-decrepify, but from there, they claim another. That's at least 6 kills for absolutely nothing. Titan ran away with that team fight.
Yeah, that was a really big fight for Titan, taking out the buyout on both Pugna as well as the Visage, just dropping them down again. Magnus forced to pop that RP, like you were saying, to help people escape, whereas really you want to be casting it offensively. That's what they picked the Magnus for, was to be that offensive, go-getter, just blink into the team, make sure they get a whole bunch of damage down, but unfortunately they're just not finding the initiations they need, and Drow Ranger standing at the front, she didn't have the Aegis anymore, so as soon as she gets shackled and stunned, she is just food. KYXY can take her down in a matter of 2 or 3 hits, and I mean, same with the Windrunner and the Timbersaw. Timbersaw just eats apart heroes like the Drow Ranger, who are very, very squishy, so I mean, I think Mineski just going a little bit too aggressively, and possibly they want to have heroes like the Visage, or I mean, even the Pugna to an extent at the front. And I mean, the big problem, like we were saying with the draft from Mineski, is that if Magnus goes at the front, as the strength hero, he can't blink in to get that RP off. They need to have someone at the front who they can afford to lose, who can be the one who's initiated on. I think really Visage is the only one who they can really afford to lose. Because if Pugna goes at the front, he's not going to be able to use that blast to push the towers down. A Crystal Maiden, she's useless. She's just going to die. If Magnus is at the front, he can't get the RP off. And if Drow's at the front, well, she's just going to die, and there goes all the damage. So that's all I can really think that Mineski are going to be able to do at this point with KYXY getting so fat.
Yeah. It's pretty difficult in this position. I mean, the Visage, of course, did take some nerfs in 6.79 for his durability, but he does have all those ranks of Gravekeeper's Cloak. The problem with that is that there's so much damage over time effects from Titan that seems to be pretty quickly a non-factor. Either from the Venomancer or from the Timbersaw, they're going to chew through that Gravekeeper's very, very quickly, and from there, he is easy money for them, and they've already put a lot of emphasis on bringing him down early in the fights. Now, they keep on scouting out Roshan, but unfortunately for them, there's actually going to be almost the maximum timer of 3 minutes, just short of it, so it is going to be quite some time before that becomes a factor. But they were able to finally drop the Sentry Ward down and clear out those pesky Templar Assassin traps that continuously scouted out. Now, Jules dodges out an auto attack with a Manta Style, was Fisher blocked out, but has enough allies to help him out of that situation that there's not going to be a huge initiation here, and a little bit of counter push up top. One other thing I want to cover real quick is that there have been a few tactics just from what happened after that big fight on mid. Mineski still had the Visage Familiars and the Drow Ranger up. So if you take a quick look at the tier 2 tower down bottom, while the backdoor protection was down from nearby creeps, they took this tower from 100% down to around 20-25% just with the Familiars alone. These things are amazing when this Drow Aura comes into play, and can't wait to see when the level 16 comes into play and when more agility from something like a Butterfly hits the map.
Yeah, no, it's going to be absolutely devastating. I mean, I think at this point, Drow could just go for that 6 Eagle songs to just sit in base and just use it as such familiars to carry the game. Not really, don't do that. But I mean, another good point is with the Necronomicon. The Necronomicon range illusion, that would get the extra damage too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it does work for the range one, of course, not the melee. But one weakness, if I remember correctly about the Necro minions, is that the ranged one does piercing damage. So although it'll be nice for farming creeps, generally speaking, you want them to be targeting heroes and targeting towers, and it's just going to be doing like reduced damage to those specifically. Still, getting that huge amplification of damage is going to be extra, but not as much as you might think.
Oh, still, just another thing. If they can get, 4 Necronomicons up on Visage, and it looks like Visage is actually going for the Arcanum Scepter, so they're not going for that Ultra Cheesy, but they are going to smoke into the Roshan pit now, and it's not going to be spotted out by... No, it is going to be spotted by Titan.
Yeah, they got the plagues. Unfortunately, these plagues have been so pesky against them. They screwed over so many Magnus initiations. Now they're fully scattered out. The Shackle will fly, and Joven is taking a lot of damage here. Going to try to drain from low to high. Ohio's going to break it. Mech and Force, but the Aegis goes to the Dire. Drow Ranger picking that up and happy to claim it, but they do... Actually, whoa, I'm missing a couple kills here. Hopefully the cameraman caught it, but it looks Earthshaker and Venomancer both dropping down.
Yeah, so that
was the freezing field damage mostly, right?
I think so, yeah. Oh, I only caught the end of it, but it was the freezing field as well as Jay throwing out the nukes, I think. But yeah, that was actually a fantastic fight for Mineski. Joven got really close to dying, but like you said, he used that life drain to go up the hill and latch onto Ohio, and they actually got the Aegis as well as 2 heroes, the 2 supports from Titan, so that could not have gone better for Mineski. I can't even imagine how that could have gone better, unless they got like a team down, but I doubt that's going to happen.
Well, you never know. With these Magnus plays, as long as he's not disrupted by things like Plague Wards and other damage over time effects, Magnus is in a great position to get some great RPs off. He has the Force Staff, he has the Skewer, he has the Blink. He can control where he wants to be for the most part, and I definitely could see some more powerful ones with 3 or 4 people all in one. But obviously, we still have to wait a little bit longer to see that one. And when they do, if they do manage it, they could easily pull ahead against Titan. But looking over at the goal graph, at least for the moment, Mineski is currently in the lead, but it's been quite back and forth. Experience is still much in favor of Titan.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that experience is on KYXY and the Timbersaw Ice. Though they've just pulled ahead. I mean, level 18 on Ice, level 17 on the Timbersaw, and I mean, the highest level on Mineski is the Drow Ranger on 17, but then Pugna only level 15 and Magnus level 14. And the 2 supports are just way far behind on level 11 each. So, really, yet again, I think a lot of the damage is going to be done this game by KYXY on the, for Titan, that is. Are we seeing a fight on bottom lane? Ooh, Ohio.
Down bottom, Ohio's taking a lot of hits here. He was our reverse polarity, and despite the mech, he might actually still drop down. Just too many familiars to deal with. The last strike of the spear from Magnus, and they do claim what I would be considering one of the most important heroes of Titan. Of course, he doesn't have his Hex yet, so Ohio isn't like guaranteed like the end-all be-all of pickoffs, but nevertheless, it's a hard kill to find, and it's well worth the reverse polarity commitment there. And now they can start pushing in towards the mid lane. 5-man Dota, they have the Aegis the Immortal, and I think that they're ready to deal with the Cycle Slam, but we'll have to see. Net is perched on the high ground and might find a pretty good opportunity here.
Well, yeah, I think with this Drow Ranger having a precision aura up, it's a perfect time to go, but...
Here comes Earthshaker, Echo Slam drops down a Gale onto 3, Poison Nova on everybody, they're all gone. Aegis is going to come up in about 4 seconds, but Drow Ranger all by her lonesome. They don't have RP to follow. The Manta-style BKB, it's a waste of cooldowns in my mind. Like, he's already dead. So he wastes another BKB charge. He does end up spending his Unreliable on that Talisman of Evasion, but that fight wasn't even a fight. It was a massacre in favor of Titan.
Yeah, that was a really nice play by the Earthshaker there, and bad positioning, honestly, by Mineski, having three of their core heroes. Well, I guess not the Visage being a core, but with the Argon Interceptor, he's, I would say, quite crucial to the team at the moment. And you can see, like you were mentioning, those three familiars just kind of sitting on the bot lane, maybe going to do a bit of pressuring on the tier 3 tower if you can get the opportunity to. But, man, I think that Drow Ranger and Pugner especially should just be standing apart. They shouldn't be standing next to each other.
Yeah, and not on top of the creep wave. For goodness sake, that was the big issue. There were many creeps involved as well. So now burning down the tower, they force a fortification. Pugna up in 4. There is going to be a quick skewer though. 4 staffing out. Ohio trying to keep himself up. He does mech, and it looks like he's going to get away. A lot of familiar damage. It's if the Drow Ranger aura was up, that would be one dead Windrunner. But now we do see burning down the illusions. They will repel the opposition from the high ground.
They did lose that tier 3, but they defended the racks, and I think now Mineski maybe going to go for a smoke up and try and get a pick off with the Drow Ranger being back up. Her Butterfly's pretty close, only another 700 gold. She's going to have that up, and there are a couple of stacks on the Ancients here, so she could be going for that before they go for the push again, but ooh, Mineski just losing these fights quite terrifically just because of mistakes with the positioning. So I think if they can position themselves correctly for the next fight, they should be able to take a fight, but they might need to rely on getting a pick off yet again. That Visage Familiar is definitely going to be, I'd say, one of the best ganking abilities they have. And actually Ice now, running into the enemy jungle.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised how fearless he's being. I mean, I know he does have the blink, but this is still enemy territory, and if that skewer had connected, this would have been a very dangerous position for him to be in. But nevertheless, he is able to just walk on through, and despite a lot of... Well, actually, we do see some lag. Maybe that was a factor in their failure to pick him off. But, yeah, it's still a great position for him to be in. That he was able to get out of there. And, yeah, he'll be able to move in towards, I guess, the Shiva's Guard, which would be pretty formidable.
Yeah, interesting pickups all around in terms of items. And it looks like KYXY actually, just looking at his items quickly, he's going to be going for a Desolator next, I would say. And with that, he should be able to essentially one-shot most of the heroes on Mineski. Even the Magnus has only got 1.4k health, hasn't really got that much survivability, and he's going to be in a lot of damage if he does, a lot of trouble, I suppose, if he does get caught out of position. So, yet again, more items coming up from Titan that are forcing Mineski to rethink their positioning and ensure that they don't get caught out. And it is unfortunate that that skewer missed, like you said, because a pick off on Ice would have been crucial at this point. They could take him down. He doesn't have buyout. He did just use it to come back in after that last fight. And even though he does have the Bloodstone, with what, 17 charges, it's still reducing those charges a little bit, I guess. How does he have 17 charges? Didn't he just die? Did I make that up in my head? No, it was Ohio who died. Sorry.
Yeah, not too recently. He's been in a lot of the fights as well. Like 9 kills, 6 assists out of the 22 that they've acquired, and there may be even some that the scoreboard's not giving him credit for that he was in range of. So setting up 17, that means he's going to have like an 18-second death timer, and from there, that means he can be very active in the engagements. Of course, providing again the utility to heal on death, as well as a huge amount of mana regen that he needs to keep spamming that chakram. But that is kind of a double-edged sword, because he is up against the Nether Ward that does deal damage to him directly based on how much he's expending, and that can be pretty brutal. But I believe the aura was activated, but it looks like it's just been used to farm the familiars a little bit. But they get plus 87, no charges whatsoever. They get plus 87 damage. That's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, that's very painful. Honestly, I think that they would be able to take down someone like Ohio if they did get out of position, but unfortunately, I think they don't want to feed the familiars because they are worth 100 gold each, and losing those familiars, since they have kind of drafted the strategy around it, plus 171 damage, that's disgusting. Since they have kind of drafted the lineup around these familiars, they can't really lose them. And Hex now picked up on Ohio, so more and more core items coming up from Mineski, and that BKB for the Drow Ranger down to 6 seconds now, so she should be considering rebuying that BKB, because if she does get down to that 4-second mark, it's going to be quite, I don't want to say useless, but it won't be having a good fight for her. She's only got 4 seconds to do damage before she gets taken down.
Yeah. I'm curious if that should be the priority, though. I mean, there are still a lot of items you could pick up. The Monkey King bar versus Windrunner would be really solid. Maybe move in towards the Satanic for just making her more durable in general. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to build the Drow Ranger at this stage. And it's obviously in Jules' hands how he wants to apply it, but I don't know. From here, he has a couple of different options, and I think it will actually be a really really big deal if he tries to go for like the BKB buyout the second time around. It'll change how the fights work out, but will it give him enough damage to actually kill off any of these heroes that are getting tankier and tankier with things like the Hex and many other pickups here like the Shiv's Guard. So I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, yeah, it's a really difficult situation that you get into in the late game when you are a carry who hasn't been farming that well. He scores 1 to 4 at the moment. His net worth, it's topping. He's actually topping the net worth, but it's still not really enough when he is the sole DPS dealer primarily for the side of Mineski. And he's got to consider he can either go for something like a Daedalus, like you mentioned, and just be pure damage, or he can get the survivability. And if he doesn't have enough damage, survivability doesn't matter. He can last for as long as he wants, but if he doesn't do anything, he's not going to be able to get the kills.
Ooh,
At the same time,
familiars.
oh,
Yeah, they're trying to do some damage. They've already taken down 400 HP off this tower almost instantly, but it's kind of forcing the issue. They've already lost one. That's free gold to X. And it seems like it's going to be an engagement very, very shortly. Right now, KYXY in a great position to just rush in as soon as that RP has been expended. But I don't think they're going to be too quick to waste their cooldowns other than this Necro, which I guess is just causing their retreat. They've popped up a couple things, and they know they're up against a 5-man squad.
yeah, and they will just be retreating. Next Roshan is actually coming up pretty soon, so maybe they're going to wait for that. That will be the cheese, won't it? Since they have had 2 Aegises down already, and giving that cheese on to maybe the Magnus or the Pugna will give Mineski a little bit more an advantage in team fights. But of course, if they do lose the Roshan fight, Mineski probably will lose the Rax, since that Rax in mid lane is just open and exposed at the moment. KYXY going to have that Desolator up as soon as he chooses to buy it. And yeah, I don't really know what Mineski's going to be planning. They do probably want to get the Aegis and go for a push, but they probably want to get maybe the mid lane or the top lane pushed in significantly. If they could push the top lane in, maybe Pugna going up there or Jules even. They have got this last tier 2 tower and bot lane, so they could, just TP back there to get to the Roshan pick quickly. But, I mean, they want to have the lanes pressuring in, so Titan are forced to reconsider, do we want to defend the Roshan or do we want to defend our Rax? Because considering that the top lane Rax is on the opposite side of the map to the Roshan pit, if Jules is, sitting up here ready to take those Rax down if they're not careful, then Titan will be forced to rotate back, and that could be a free Roshan for Mineski. And it looks like Jules will be going to the lane now, but it might be a little bit too late because Josh is getting put out
Bad
of
spot for
position.
Josh. Yeah, he's pretty much going to be too. Oh no, when he has
Oh!
the Ghost Stepper, he has the Force Staff. He's able to actually get himself out of a very bad position. So that's actually really, really nice for him, as he seemed like dead meat in the water, but is able to be is able to get out of there. And in turn, they do pick off one familiar down that's kind of doing the split push thing. So I guess it's a little bit of a trade of the momentum. If the Crystal Maiden had been picked off, that would have been a huge coup for Titan, as they could kind of rush in towards Roche, which is just now spawned. But nope, still going to have to buy their time a little bit. I'm actually not sure why KYXY is not buying Desolator. Like, he has all the reliable gold he needs to buy back. So if you do the math, he can easily pick up the Desolator and not suffer any consequences negatively. Unless he changes his mind on his item pickup, which I doubt.
Or maybe he's just deciding whether or not he wants to get the Desolator or another BKB. Because his BKB is running down on charges, and he also has to worry for that silence coming out from Jules, as well as the damage coming out from the Pugna. But it looks like I said, Jules did push down the top lane. KYXY was defending the top lane, and that's going to be the Aegis as well as Cheese going the way of Mineski. So Cheese now picked up on Jesse Vash, so he doesn't have to worry too much about getting caught out of position. He can just blink in, cast that RP, do a lot of damage, skewer out, and then pop that Cheese and be ready to fight again. And that double life on Jules, I think that they'll be going for this Roshan, this bottom Rax if they can. Tower is already down to 600 health, and there are 5 Furies here ready to go. Smoked up too, in fact.
They really, really want to force the issue here. They've already pinged it down quite a bit. They're having the opposition group up to try to kill the familiars. They're going to get them to stack up on this familiar, and that could be an RP opportunity, but only if, of course, Titan make a huge error right here. We already, like you said, have the smoke on the Magnus. He's just out of range, but he has that blink, that Force Staff. He can get wherever he needs to be, and actually I'm seeing a couple of good opportunities, but he's very patient. He wants the ideal one to make sure this fight is 100% secure. Ohio coming out, but the Shackle will not latch, and so despite having a double damage rune, Titan does not want to fight outside their base.
But look how hard Jules hits. He hits for almost 500 damage each go. The Familiar is also doing plus 161 when they're standing. When they're standing near?
Yeah, it's within like I think 900 range
Oh, when he
for
activates
creeps,
it.
and then global range for the heroes. Actually, four staff in, not good for Jules. He's sheeped up, he's shackled to a Necronomicon creep, and he's being bursted before he can pop the BKB. Now he does come out of the disables, tries to turn it around onto ice, but he's using his frost arrows, no lifesteal, and now taking a lot of damage. Double four staff, but the power shot connects, and that will be an Aegis exhausted. Some amazing four staff play coming from Titan. There's like four staves in this game, so it could be just about anybody. Actually, there's five. But bottom line, they forced out the Aegis and now have to transfer the cheese over to Jules.
Yeah, that was I'm a bit skeptical, not skeptical. I don't know by why Jules activated the frost arrows and then was standing at the hill fighting, but then deciding to run away. I feel like he should have either manned up and said, "Yo, I've got the Aegis, let's do this." And as soon as he died, he popped the BKB. That's typically what I've seen, at least in competitive play. Normally, is they wait until they die from the Aegis, respawn, then pop the BKB, and that does give perfect opportunity for Jesse Vash to blink in and get a 5-man or 4-man RP. But unfortunately, Jules decided that he wanted to play a little bit safer and tried to run out and did just lose the Aegis for it. Even with all the four staffs in the world, that power shot by coming out from Ohio was very nicely aimed and did just catch the cusp, the end of him. But now with the Satanic up on Jules, it looks like they want to go for round two. He can just turn around, pop the cheese, pop the Satanic, and he's got basically a triple life at this point. And I think Mineski really want to force the issue. The bottom T3 tower is down, so they can go for these racks, which are exposed.
Exactly. These 3 health bars that Jules has at his disposal means that Titan has to play this very, very well. I won't say perfectly, but they have very little room for error. They have to focus Templar Assassin with that Monkey King bar on top of Jules. They get the Hex, but they're just walking away. Fisher Block might not be enough here. The BKB pops are very, very early. They're going to go for the RP onto 2. Ice dropping low. He will take a fall. Jules just tanking it up. Pops the cheese. Will dodge out that shackle. And KYXY is in a bad spot. He will drop down. Has the buyback. Is probably going to have to use it here. Yes, he jumps back into it. Timbersaw coming back in just a couple seconds next to Mr. Bloodstone, but that just signals the retreat from Mineski. Shackle will connect onto Jay. This fight is not over just yet. Ice doing a heck of a lot of damage, and this should be the death of the Visage. So they claim a 1 in turn, but losing that buyback on KYXY is actually pretty brutal. Can they get one more? They do get the Fisher onto Josh. He has a 4-staff off cooldown, but there's just too much damage, and he will get dropped down. So in that fight, they lost 2, and they did lose their cheese, but they did put some damage into the racks, and of course they did force the buyback of the Templar Assassin.
Yeah, and KYXY, he lost the Mithril Hammer, and he gained the Monkey King bar, so I guess that's... Actually, oh, Joven on top lane.
Yeah, he was being stalked up by Ice. Joven walked over this Invis-Rune, completely ignored it, and seeing as they have no gem, they have no Duster or Sentries, they actually, if he picked up this Invis-Rune, that wouldn't have happened at all. But Ice grabbed it instead and stalked him in the jungle. They found their opportunity, and they get a very clutch pickoff. But yeah, as you were saying, he had the Mithril Hammer, decided to sell that, now has a Monkey King bar, which is a great item, but that's kind of wavering between those two decisions, of course, cost him a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, and it did cost him a fair amount of gold. I feel like he could have just, held on to the Mithril Hammer and got the MKB as well as a Desolator, but maybe he feels like now, with the Satanic pickup on the Drow Ranger, he's probably going to need his own lifesteal orb. Maybe going for that Helm of the Dominator into Satanic, give himself a lot more tanking and survivability for the team fights.
Sure.
And,
or
the
you kind of
MKB...
could go. One thing that's about Templar Assassin that's very different from Drow is a very over time type damage dealer with her agility bonus if she can get that off. But Templar Assassin is very upfront and personal with the melds. So maybe going something like a Daedalus in conjunction with the Monkey King bar could be what they need. But like you said, you can also play that lifesteal game and just kind of go toe to toe with the carry. But sorry, as you're saying.
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't even remember what I was gonna say. Sorry, I guess it wasn't that important. Or else I would be sitting here going, I want to say it. Well, Blink Dagger now picked up on KYXY, so it looks like he wants to be able to help out with the initiation as much as possible, and he doesn't have buyout though. I feel like Mineski should be pushing the issue, I guess would be a way to put it a lot more, with that buyout down on KYXY for another 3 minutes. Now is their opportunity to go in. If they can take KYXY down, they can get a Rax, and they probably need to get a Rax, because while Dry Ranger is a really good late game carry, I don't know, I just feel like she hasn't been performing that well this game. Maybe that's a very harsh thing to say, but it just feels like she hasn't had a huge impact. She's 2-4, she's got really nice net worth, really nice farm, and she is keeping the gold graph pretty much even, but experience-wise, it's going hugely in favor of Titan. And I think in this sort of a game, when carry-wise, I'd say it's pretty evenly matched up. Um, you really want to have the experience bonus, be able to keep on top of the game. And I'd say that a Mineski are kind of not. I don't know. Do you feel like Mineski is on the cusp of losing this game?
I definitely agree with some of what you're saying. The aspect that they are kind of wavering right now, their advantage dropped off pretty quickly, and Drow hits her stride at level 16. So the fact that she's moving in towards 21, 25, she's great as a carry, but like you said, the Titan has some answers for her. So really, I don't think that Mineski will feel very confident in going for a full 5-on-5 engagement continuously until Mag has a refresher orb, and it doesn't look like that's where he's going. He actually picked up, I thought I saw a Necronomicon pickup, might have sold it outright. Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, if he goes for the refresher orb, I think that's when they start feeling more confident about their engagements. But until then, they have to rely on, like you said, great positioning and great timing for their pushes. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, what another thing that Neskeep could potentially do is just use Jewel to split push. Because one thing that Drow Ranger is actually really good at is taking down towers. She's similar to Drow. Clinks actually. I'm just looking at top lane where they're all kind of pushing around.
Ooh, getting the skewer onto KOX. This could be the opportunity they're looking for, out of range of all the force staffs, but Blink is up and available, and yeah, it looks like they're just trying to find that opening. Templar Assassin getting signaled out wasn't what they needed because it wasn't as far out of position as they intended to be. If it was like right next to 4 people, that would have been an easy kill, and with buyback on cooldown, they could just complete man mode, brute force down, take down, I would believe, 3 or 4 racks. But unfortunately, Mineski, they were just a little bit too far behind, and even with their mobility through blinks and force, it's just where they weren't able to get that kill, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I'm sure... Oh, here we go. They actually got the bot racks down.
Yep, trading a few familiars, but that's what it's all about for them, is just making sure Drow has all the agility in the world to contribute to the Visage familiars. And now he's going to have that resummon. Actually, these aren't even rank 3 familiars, these are rank 2. I guess they always have that 0.4 base attack time, so it's not really going to be the greatest amplification of damage just to bring the familiar armor, HP, and a little bit of damage up, but it's definitely something when Visage hits 16.
Alright, so here's my idea. Since evasion stacks diminishingly now...
Oh, actually... Might say, yeah, it's going to be the Blink right on top of Joel's pasta BKB, though, and he can actually just easily tank up this damage because he has that Satanic available. But now the BKB has expired, and that changes quite a bit. They get the Gale very long range up on the glyph. No, the Gale actually didn't connect. Either way, Jewel slowed to a crawl and can't really stand and deliver. Tries to get the Satanic, but gets interrupted, and she will fall. Jules has to buy back, but with Satanic on cooldown, it's a very dicey engagement for them. They've already lost one, trading for the Timbersaw, but with that Bloodstone, his respawn and his ability to BOT back into the fight is only just 10 seconds away. Now Jay finding out X, he's going to force staff to the low ground, but still taking a hell of a lot of damage from those familiars. Burned down very, very quickly, even without the aura. Now Jay taking a lot of damage from KY. XY not really worrying about the last will of that melee Necro, and is able to pick off the Visage. Venomancer is the one to buy back, but it looks like Visage doesn't have that option.
Yeah, and Roshan did actually just respawn, probably going to be scattered out by these Visage familiars, and I kind of wonder what the next game plan for Mineski is with Titan now pressuring that mid lane. Looks like maybe they're going to go for the racks, maybe they're going to be a bit of a fight over this Roshan. Illusion Rune on Drow though, so that's going to be a lot of damage coming out from her. So,
Oh, big skewer coming out. The reverse polarity gonna connect on a couple of heroes right inside that chakram, well, on the other side, but we do see still some good AoE damage coming out from Titan. There's an Echo Slam onto one. They just want Jules. They will most likely get Jules. No, the Satanic comes out. There's that right-click damage. And life stealing away back to a quarter HP. It's enough for them. And they will clean this fight very, very effectively with Templar Assassin falling. And now Drow Ranger burning down the Venomancer, running for her life from the melee Necro. It's going to be claimed by Magnus, but Ohio gets a great shackle off and almost enough damage. There's the Hex. There's the kill. Ohio will get Drow, and Drow has 115 seconds in the grave. This is not good for them right now. Going for some damage onto Jesse Vash. Shackles over to Crystal Maiden, but it does not latch, and now Windrunner is going to have to retreat. Meanwhile, Pugna, Joven, man mode against KY, but the heal is not enough. Ohio tries to mech, tries to force, but he is locked in place, and he will fall. So now 3 down for Mineski, 3 down for Titan. Net trying to TP away. No stuns available. He will barely get out on sub 100 HP. But of course, KYXY is still the main damage dealer on the battlefield, going up against 4 Necros.
Just the Necro books everywhere. Little Necronomicon summons. And I don't even know who won that fight. Those buyouts from Crystal Maiden, Venomancer, Magnus, Windrunner, Drow Ranger, and the Templar Assassin. So buyouts from everyone, and nobody really came on top. Mineski were majority dead at the end of this fight, but KYXY, no mana left from all those Necronomicon summons, just harassing him down. So he can't even go take the Roshan by himself. It'd be way too risky. Well, I mean, I guess he could, but no, it looks like now they're going to be going.
Yeah, difficult prospect. Now he has the mana. He can meld. He can just use his raw damage output and be able to bring that down quickly. But yeah, pretty much, in my opinion, whoever the team that wins the fight is the team that gets the Rosh here, because it's such a big Rosh kill with the cheese and the ages. And right now, the time of the 2 most important heroes, Magnus and Drow, is still around 20 seconds, and that's plenty of time for them to take the Rosh. So the familiars don't look like they're going to be going for a snipe. It looks like it is going to go to Titan, and with that, I gotta say that they won that fight, because the last woman standing was Templar Assassin, not the Drow, and that gave them that opening on Rosh.
Yeah, I didn't look at the respawn times properly, because I forgot the respawn times have changed a decent amount. Now it takes forever to people come back into team fights after the most recent patch. Unless I'm just crazy. I could just be crazy. I'm going a little bit crazy. It's getting quite late here. But Drow rebuys out the BKB now, so 10 seconds on that. But MKB also picked up onto the Windrunner. And actually, Jay goes for Boots of Travel. So what are we going to be seeing? I mean, what we could... Oh, wait, we can't anymore. I was going to say, Jules could use the Helm of the Dominator to take control of a creep and then get past the backboard protection, like we have seen coming out from a couple of teams recently. I think LGD Int did that, and Miracle has done that multiple times as well. But it's a Satanic now, so they can't do that. But if they did do that, maybe steal a creep, chuck it in the base here, and then all Boots of Travel to it, get all the Necronom summons out, and they could easily take a backdoor Rax, I would say,
yeah,
with a really cheesy
I definitely think
like
that's viable here. The cool thing is you can still do that with the familiars, I believe, so you can just fly those in and get a nice little kind of dive bomb behind enemy lines, and it might be kind of an all-in play, but if you have buybacks at your disposal, it might be just the thing you need. So say maybe Drow Pit has BOTs and picks up a double damage rune, easy racks. Of course, they do have fortification available, and Titan will have to cling to that for dear life up against all these Necros, but I still think that is definitely a potential strategy in the near future.
Yeah, we are going to see actually Mineski looking like they want to make a bit of a play. Bot lane is pushing in, but KYXY just sending down his illusions to pressure it. And I think at this point, Drow really needs an MKB of her own. Too much evasion coming out. Evasion, of course, from the Windrunner, and now KYXY has picked up a Talisman of Evasion himself. So I really feel that some raw damage very soon to counteract that. But with the DD room, like you said, she could just send her own illusions up this top lane and do a bit of pressuring on the tower. Jay is not inside. He's got his familiar summon though, and he could be sending them to the mid lane just to kind of try and backdoor that, or just sending them down bot lane and just go straight for the throne area possibly. Though I think going for towers is going to be a little bit more useful, I suppose.
Sure. Now, one little interesting mind game that I don't know if it'll come into play whatsoever, but it's fun to theorycraft about nevertheless, is that the old BKB that you can't sell from Jules, he actually gave it to Jesse Vash. So although he can't benefit from it in any way, shape, or form, it looks to the enemy as if he's carrying a BKB, and they don't know whose that is. So I don't know if it's some really super next-level mind games or somebody's just throwing away their junk and another person's picking it up, but it is kind of interesting to think about. It's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't pop this ability on him because of that factor. I don't know. It's just an interesting idea, at least.
It's cute. They're just having a little bit of a trolling game. But with that DD down now, they are just going to back out. Just keeping up the farming. Roshan Age is going to be reclaimed in 3 minutes, so I mean, this is kind of really teetering on a knife edge. Either team could take it. Gold only 5,000. This is a 56-minute game, 5,000 gold. 15,000 though in experience, really going in favor of Titan. But of course, as the game goes on longer and longer, everyone's going to hit level 25, so experience isn't going to matter. Experience is kind of crucial before, I would say, the hour mark. But it's getting to the point where everyone's going to be just sub max stats. Let's get like 6 hexes up.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, Necromass on one side, Scythe Mass on another. I don't know. It's getting pretty interesting. Of course, Ice is pretty low on Bloodstone charges, so he can't really defer to that as often about just respawning really, really quickly. Because it is, I believe, 9 seconds per charge, and then, of course, it is 9 seconds per level, so he's just way too high a level for that to really come into play. Or no, it's 4 seconds, sorry. 4 seconds per charge, 4 seconds per level, but yeah, he's not really going to be able to take too much off his death timer, and that means he's going to be forcing buyback. Let's go to that chart real quick just to highlight that before the clash occurs. We do see that there are 6 buybacks available in total. We do have 1 for the Drow and 1 for the Magnus, but the rest belong to the Radiant. And Titan defending on home turf, now getting an Echo Slam off on top of Jules. No BKB, sheeped up. Too much damage, he does get dropped down. Shackle will interrupt the Crystal Maiden ultimate. That's 2 free kills for nothing, and they're going to pursue deep. Blink Dagger up and active. Oh, goodness, they're trying to pursue on the Magnet. Magnet's not going to find him just yet, but Familiar's doing some damage to towers. That's going to be cleaned up by the Templar Assassin. And now, Ice getting very, very close at hand to the Visage, slowing him down, and that is going to be the kill. Very, very nicely done by Titan as they take a 3-man swing in a perfectly defensible position. Now, they are missing racks on bottom. They have taken some hits on the Tier 3 top, but this is exactly what they needed to do, to break out of their base and start taking the fight to Mineski.
Yeah, it was really nicely played by them. Drow Ranger and Crystal Maiden just, I would say, a little bit out of position, quite honestly. And now even Joven may be going down.
I'm trying to be just very, very cheeky. There are no... Oh, no, he does get the Enchant Totem up and available. So Aftershock will occur. Not going to be able to claim the kill on the Pugna, and that was just an unforced error. That was unnecessary losses, and now they're very far behind. One would debate that the Pugna really couldn't do that much without his 2 allies up anyways, but now he's down for an extra 40 seconds, has to buy back, and meanwhile BOT is up the top lane. They've got 3 ready to force the issue on this tower, blinking right on top of Jesse Vash. He does get forced away by the Wind Order, but it's not fast enough. It doesn't do enough, and Ohio popping the cheese will negate most of the damage done by Joven. Now they're really, really low. Popping 2 buybacks, losing the Crystal Maiden. Visage up in just a couple seconds, but now the tower is being focused down. It looks like they're going to retreat. They've taken plenty of buybacks. The Familiar, the back door. Here it comes back in the Radiant base. There is already Jay in the midst of things, looking for some damage on Tier 3s, on racks, whatever he can get. The Familiar Aura about to expire, though. Or, sorry, the Drought Aura. And it's just still taken away, but here comes X doing some Gale, trying to keep his racks up, but right now the melee on top lane are gone. The range dropping very, very quickly, and Visage very happy to trade his life for this. Actually gets a couple of nice Familiar stuns, but the bottom line is they're taking towers, they're taking racks, and now only 2 remain.
They're just being so sneaky, and with that racks down, now Titan have got to defend the 2 lanes, and I could see that whole time Jay had sent those Familiars that was sticking out in the bushes here, ready to be the drop-off point for Jay, and he did go for these Bits of Travels earlier, and maybe we're going to see Bits of Travels picked up on Pugna soon. He doesn't really need the mana boots, I would say, the arcane boots at 59 minutes into the game when he's got a Hex and Necronomicon 3, so he could go for Travels himself if he could have a farm up the buyback, which is probably going to be the hard point. But like you said, with that Precision Aura, those Raxes dropped so quickly. They were just like, boop, gone, see you later. And I mean, if they can maybe distract Titan, get them going for the top lane again, or the bottom lane, anywhere really, the Roshan pit even, which is going to be up fairly soon, and then just go for the mid racks and get the mega creeps. This could be the game going for the way of Mineski.
Exactly, and that's what makes this strategy so very tough to deal with, because even if you get the best victory you can, they took no losses in those fights until they started diving very, very aggressively up on the top. But because they used their BOTs and TP scrolls to get to the top lane, they had very, very delayed retreats. Now we do see the Necro scouting out Josh, but just going to do some D-ward. Not really going to find anything. Unless Josh comes back in. Whoa, Josh, got to watch himself. Going to get hit by the Gale? No. Just playing around. Going to force and TP away. In the meantime, the Familiars doing stuff on the front lines. Tier 3 dropping down to 460, but until that backdoor protection is down, they actually can't net a full kill. And almost cleaned up. Yeah, Ohio will claim one familiar. Looking for a second one. One more right click. There it is. So familiars are cleaned up. The resummon is not available for another 100 seconds, and that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that was a oh man, so much damage done to the mid tower then, and
Oh,
yeah,
Echo Slime down at bottom. Huge damage. They did not see this coming whatsoever. Oh my gosh, the initiation. 100-second death time on Pugna and on Drow Ranger. Buyback available for neither. This could be that single moment in this game. That single burst of huge AoE damage from the double blink, the ultimates, the Shivas. That could have sealed the deal right here because, again, the Visage doesn't have familiars up. It's on cooldown for 70 seconds. It's like finding a lone druid without his bear. And now they have the two big heroes, Pugna and Drow, both dead. Rax dropping. They can go for throne right here.
looks like Jay wants to try and exchange though, but with no Drow, he hasn't got the aura up, and Titan going straight for the throne. They're not bothering with any other stuff. KYXY doing huge amounts of damage, hitting down the towers, and is this going to be GG? No reverse polarity up. Crystal Maiden even throwing out the freezing field, but she just drops down instantly. And
So
Jay
this could be
falls
it
back.
right here. There's going to be a nice little skewer play, but Timbersaw is able to jump out and avoid that. Meanwhile, the damage is on that throne. Fortification is up. You can't base race against this. Too much damage comes out. The last right clicks are there. Throne dropping. 900 HP, 800 HP. GG is called, and that is going to be the second win consecutively for Titan, taking the series 2-0.
Wow, GG, well played to both teams. That was a really nice little attempted play there by Mineski using those Visage Familiars, but unfortunately, like you said, that play on bot team just changed the game. I didn't even catch most of it, but taking down the Drow, taking down the Pugna, no way for Mineski to come back after that. So GG, well played to both teams, and thank you of course to Steelseries for sponsoring this tournament. As you just said, Titan 2-0 Mineski, and they will be proceeding to the finals, must be.
Yeah. That was a very, very impressive play from Titan. They definitely deserve the spot moving forward. A very difficult strategy to deal with, but they drafted really well against it. They immediately saw what Mineski was looking towards, and they said they were having none of that. So played it well, played it slow, but necessarily. And obviously they took the game in the end. It took an hour and 2 minutes, but sure did they give us a show.
Yeah, they definitely did. And we'll see you guys in the next game, which is going to be coming up right now, which is the other semi-final for the Steelseries tournament. See you guys there.